APIs, which, by the way, aren't very good APIs, is just not going to give you very good performance, and it's just going to be a case of trying to mimic the Windows experience instead of focusing on things that we have in Linux, which are by far superior in some ways, and even more native. So,
I think it was more the case with Mono. Certainly, I don't touch on that subject very often.
You see benchmark between actually those picking together Tomboy and Gnode, which is basically a derivative based on, well, not really a derivative. It's I don't know what. It's more of a port to C++ of the Tomboy program, and it's a lot faster and takes a lot less memory, and basically offers the same functionality.
I mean, I maybe shunned is a bit of a strong word, but I removed or ignored Mono a long time ago, obviously, and I very rarely touch on the subject. For me, it's a non-issue in the respect of my desktop, so I certainly wouldn't advocate it. I certainly wouldn't use it out of choice unless it's installed by covert means on my system. I certainly wouldn't use it out of choice. And I sort of saw it as a non-starter. And like I say, I very rarely touch on the Mono subject unless it's something relevant to use about.
So there's always this joke about whether it's slow because it's checking your Mono license, your patent license every time you change tracks or whatever. But the fact is, you have to be aware that Microsoft increasingly, in fact, it is increasingly suing companies, extorting companies, and trying to make money from patents because they don't make enough money. The cash cows are dying. Things like Office is declining, Windows is declining. The worst we can do is to try and kind of give them a rope by saying, well, you can have part of Linux, or you can have your things inside Linux, and then kind of, put your stick inside and kind of move it around inside our community, because that's what they try to do, kind of, slap us around and tell us what to do and tell us what we need to pay, what we need to pay, and it's quite a disturbing trend. Today I found a video. A person called Homer, not really, his real name is actually Keith, but he uploaded a video which I shared earlier. It's basically Ballmer implying that Linux users aren't willing to pay for software. And what he's talking about, I was looking, it's to do with the whole .NET kind of Silverlight type thing for Linux. So he doesn't let them actually develop in it. So this is them trying to create their own separate world, anti-standards, anti-web world, and they still pretend that Linux users won't be paying. And the same person who uploaded his video previously, Keith, actually uploaded a video where Ballmer says that Linux users owe him some money. They have a, what's his word? I think he says something like balance sheet liability was his words, I think, to Red Hat. He wants to be paid for Linux distributions, all of them. And that's quite a disturbing trend. In fact, if you believe that Microsoft is going to go up and is actually thriving with Skype's acquisition, things like that, you can just think about it again, because in the news today, or actually yesterday, obviously, the IBM has gone past Microsoft when it comes to market value. So here we have the company that used to be far ahead in number one, thrashing everyone else. Is basically down to number 3 in terms of the big vendors, and in fact Oracle and Google are just a few billions behind Microsoft, so you could be looking at Microsoft going down to number 5 among the big vendors in software within less than a year.
Funnily enough, that video that was uploaded by Homer, I've actually posted the comment. I haven't checked yet to see whether it's been moderated yet. But I saw the link for that when that originally came out. It makes me laugh because it just, for me, shows how out of touch Ballmer is, or how he is avoiding the truth. If we look back at recent history, and I don't like bringing it up again, but I think it's a very good example of the mindset of the Linux community. You look at the humble indie bundle, where you had Linux users paying more than Windows users for the same software.
Mac users too. And kind of have a reputation for being rich people.
And I think, my comment was, which hopefully will be accepted very shortly, but my comment was that maybe Linux users are more willing to pay more money because of the fact that they haven't been fleeced for their operating system or their Office suite, and they've got more cash on the hip, so to speak, and very willing to pay for decent software, as was the case for the humble indie bundle. And if you look at things like that, then I certainly think that Linux users certainly have got the money and the I don't want to use the word generosity because that sounds like a charity, but certainly the intention to pay good money for good software. And if you look at any BitTorrent tracker, to me, all I see is Windows users downloading binaries proprietary software for free. So if anybody is the one that's after the freebie, I certainly think that Windows users are just as guilty, if not more.
I found my personal experience with any Windows users I know, is the first thing they'll ask you, is this thing free? When they basically go on the web and they try to find a free browser like Firefox, they try to find free. Basically, they like this freeware, shareware, whatever. They have loads of that. And the fact that they have Windows, you'd assume, oh, well, they have Windows, they obviously have some proprietary expensive software. Well, they never bought the thing. They bought a computer. And guess who actually bought Windows or paid for Windows? That was the OEMs. That's companies like Dell and HP. They imposed it upon the users. The fact that some people then have to access Office, I know lots of people around the university back in the days, at least they had the ability to get licenses for Office. I personally haven't used Office like since the 90s, but they basically would move around all the CDs of Office and get unlicensed copies of Office. And if you check the numbers from Microsoft, you'll find lots of businesses would pay for Office, but among houses, the so-called piracy rates are pretty high. And it's very easy to see why, because nobody's really pursuing them. They usually go after businesses, and Microsoft doesn't mind because it's not really lost business. If they go after people's, if they knock on people's doors and say, oh, or did you pay for Office? They'll just scare them into using something else. They'll just tell the neighbors, that the people are knocking on their doors, and they'll ask, oh, what should I use? Oh, I could use OpenOffice instead, and they might do that. So for my experience, even when you see a person in his house or in her house using Photoshop and Office, be sure to check if they actually pay for it, because my experience is almost nobody pays for it. And the companies, of course, don't lose any money because it's not really lost business. Because if they didn't offer Photoshop for free or make it available somewhere, these people would just be using something free that's actually shareware or whatever. So Earphone View or even the GIMP, in fact.
Well, have you got anything in the news that you want to bring up before we have a musical interlude, as it were? Yeah,
I think we probably should start talking about Fedora 15 after the first song, which I believe you will introduce. It's your track.
Yep, it's this particular one I only found probably about 45 minutes ago, and it's off the album Dinner for One. It's by a band called Amity in Fame, and the track is called Amity We Should Give. It's very reminiscent of a Metallica acoustic type track. There's a couple of acoustic riffs in there which very much sound like a Metallica track, and it's very, very good. So without further ado, I'll put it on now and see what you think.